The
There's a
keynote
massive
speaker was
difference between
excellent
being
this year.
bad at networking and having a built-in metal detector for fake behavior. Everyone else may call you distant
that's
because
exactly
they only
the point
measure
I was
social
trying to
skill
make
by
earlier.
volume. They think the
Hello,
person
wonderful
shaking
to
the
meet
most
you.
hands is winning. And honestly, it is exhausting. Because sometimes you are not avoiding people. You are watching the room with better resolution than everyone else wants to admit. You notice the smile that arrives half a second too early. You notice the laugh that has no body behind it. You notice the compliment that lands like bright paint on wet cement. Loud, shiny, and wrong. That is not paranoia. That is pattern recognition. The first habit is the curtain drop. You are at an office party holding a paper cup that has gone soft at the rim. Someone
Look
from
who
another
finally
department walks
made it out
over,
of their
flashes a
cubicle.
giant smile,
It is
says
great
your name
to
too
see
loudly,
you.
and asks how you have been like they have been waiting all year
Yes,
for the answer.
everything is all right.
So you answer carefully. Not too much, not too cold, just enough to keep the machine moving. Then the second someone more useful enters the room, their smile drops. Not fades, drops. Like a heavy theater curtain slamming shut after the audience leaves. And everyone pretends this is normal. But your nervous system does not clap for bad acting. It records the mismatch. Face one thing, energy another. Words polished, motive leaking out the side. So when people say you are hard to impress, maybe they mean you do not confuse stage lighting with sunrise. The second habit is the leaky teaspoon.
Look,
You are
I just need
trapped
to
near
know
the
the
snack
projections
table
for
while
Q4.
someone asks,
Are we
"So,
on track
what
or
do you
not?
do?"
Are you sure
Then
you
another
submitted the
person
final
asks it.
report?
Then another, then another.
What is the
By the
answer?
sixth time, the words start
Tell
sounding
us
less
the
like
answer.
curiosity and more like a password
Why are you
nobody
holding
actually
the
cares
answer?
about. You give the same clean answer again, and you can feel your real thoughts backing away into a quiet corner. This is the part people miss. Surface talk is not easy just because it is simple. Simple can still be expensive.
Another Tuesday.
Answering 50
Another
low-resolution
deluge.
questions in one night can feel
Don't remind
exactly
me.
like trying
I
to
still
fill a
have to fix
bathtub
the
with a leaky
Q3
teaspoon.
projection.
Drip, smile. Drip, nod. Drip, pretend the weather is fascinating. And by the end, your battery is at 0, but somehow people still think you did nothing. No, you spent the whole night paying invisible transaction fees. The third habit is the deadbolt rule. While everyone else is collecting business cards like cheap souvenirs, you start doing something quieter. You stop leaving your inner life unlocked. You put your energy behind a heavy iron deadbolt, not because you hate people, because you finally learned that access is not the same thing as connection. There is a real situation nobody likes to name. Someone wants your time, your attention, your warmth, your quick laugh, your instant reply, your friendly face in the hallway. But they do not want the slow work of knowing you. They want the light from the house without learning where the front steps are. So you begin to test for effort, not dramatically, not with some grand speech. You notice who remembers what you actually said, who checks in without needing an audience, who can sit in silence without trying to fill every inch of air with noise. And that is when your circle gets smaller, not sadder, smaller, cleaner, easier to breathe inside. This is where the world gets confused. They call it antisocial when you stop performing friendliness on command. They call it networking deficiency when you refuse to throw your name into every noisy room like loose change. They call it being too quiet because silence makes fake people nervous. But you are not too quiet. You are a closed-circuit transmission in a room full of static. You are the Faraday cage blocking high-frequency nonsense so your actual signal can stay intact. And maybe that sounds dramatic until you remember what corporate socializing often asks from people. Be available, be charming, be casual, be impressive, be digestible. Somehow be real, but not so real that anyone has to slow down. That is ridiculous. A person is not a brochure. A friendship is not a LinkedIn speed run. Trust is not something you build by screaming your elevator pitch over warm cheese cubes. So maybe your refusal is not a flaw. Maybe it is an energy conservation protocol. Maybe it is a high-yield social resource allocation system wearing the very ordinary face of, I would rather go home. You are not rejecting people. You are rejecting waste. You are not allergic to connection. You are allergic to counterfeit connection. You do not need 50 people who know your job title and nothing else. You need the 2 people who hear one sentence from you and understand the room underneath it. 2 crystal clear radio stations will always beat 50 empty channels hissing at the same time. And once you understand that, your quiet stops looking like failure. It starts looking like architecture. A boundary with hinges, a filter with standards, A security system that does not panic, it just knows what does not belong inside. So no, you are not bad at networking just because you do not enjoy collecting shallow contacts like fridge magnets. You are choosing signal over static, depth over volume, real recognition over public performance. And if that makes some people uncomfortable, maybe the problem is not your silence. Maybe the problem is that your silence does not give them anywhere to hide. It is exhausting to pretend you care about the weather,
isn't it?
Just to make a stranger comfortable. So if you would rather have 2 solid quarters than 50 loose pennies, write quiet in the comments. And be honest, how long does it usually take you to recharge after a forced social event?